All right, so we're getting ready to start this workout. We're gonna do a quick one. Time's a little limited, so we're gonna get to it. With most of my workouts, I typically like to start with a priming. Priming meaning we're doing something that gets us more set up to do other movements. I'm always gonna be doing something that's more focused or full body. And with that full body, I'm still gonna have a focus. So that means I'm gonna work everything, but I'm gonna have a target area that I'm gonna work. Sometimes I make that more general. Today we're gonna start off with some single leg glute bridges. Now from here, hip thrusts. From here we wanna make sure that we start by lowering our hips down. So I'm not gonna lower them down just to the ground. I'm acting like I'm pushing them backwards. Once I get here and my chest drops down, I'm gonna keep my core tight. I will start my rep counter, which is on my watch. I'm gonna hold this here, and then I would be holding that for about 10 to 15 seconds. Once I get through with that 10-second hold, then I will immediately start my reps. And if you notice, each time I'm going down, I'm taking my hip backwards. This makes my chest drop down, allows me to keep my core tight. Each time I'm going, I'm actually not moving this leg. I'm just gonna keep that leg static, pulling my heel into my butt. After I finish my reps, I'm gonna go back to that low position and alternate feet. So I'll just even it out. And again, I'm gonna keep this one down, hip pushed back, and I'm still holding this for about 10 seconds while squeezing this glute. So the outside of that glute is getting really warm. I'm gonna keep squeezing it, and then I'm gonna go through my reps. As I'm going through my movements, I'm always tracking on my watch. So each time I go through, track sets, reps, and rest periods. Now we're gonna move on to scap circles. And with this, like I said, we've already warmed up our hamstrings, our glutes. So we started getting into our posterior warming to prepare us for other movements. And now we're gonna get into our upper posterior, or our back and mid back, but more importantly, support by our shoulders from our scap. So from here, I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna make sure that I turn my feet slightly in to keep my pelvis neutral. Core is gonna be tight. Then I'm gonna go back, down, and scoop forward through my shoulders. As I'm doing this, it's important that I keep my core completely engaged. Keep everything tight, and try to make sure to keep my arms straight throughout the movement. Here I focus on doing anywhere between 15 and 20 reps. Number does not need to be perfect. It's really more of a feel for me, just getting my body ready so that I can load a little bit more weight and move more effectively. All right, after that, since we are limited on time, I'm gonna jump right back in to my hip thrust. So I'll get myself set up and move directly into my next set. Again, I'm always starting these with a hold. So I'm gonna hold this guy for 10 seconds while still actively squeezing that glute. Once that 10 seconds hits, I'm right back at it for another set of 15. Switching sides, again, always gonna get that hold in. It's important to note that I'm pulling this heel towards my butt and keeping that foot dorsiflexed, or my toes pulling towards my shin. So we'll knock out another round of scap circles, and then another round of hip thrusts, and another round of scap circles, and we'll get directly into our lift. See you once we move to the next exercise. All right, finishing up this last set of scap circles. After I finish these, now I'm gonna start, put my rest on, and go ahead and get set up for first loaded or resistance movement. It's gonna be some RDLs. So barbell RDLs, again, we're tapping into that posterior with the heavy focus on hamstrings and glutes, but we are still gonna get some good low back, and not simply focus on it, but some good back activation. Still focusing on keeping our scap active and also keeping our core active. Something I commonly will say is that I don't do ab work. I'm not doing crunches, not doing sit-ups, and that's because the main function of your abdominal region is to allow movement. Think of it as that copper coil, that conductor. So it allows energy transfer and it prevents you from going into negative positions. So I make it a very deliberate focus for each movement I'm doing to get some good core activation and make sure that I'm not losing or not taking advantage of that. So here, I'm gonna start with some RDLs. Again, these are just gonna be kind of moderate pace and controlled. Make sure the movement is fluid. This is where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start at 225. Start where you want, wherever you're safe or comfortable, but don't try to do things that may not work for you. As I'm going back, I am focused on pushing my hips back more than I am lowering the bar. This will shorten the range that I go, but give me more stretch in my hamstrings. Now, usually I'll give myself, depending on what type of weight I plan on doing, anywhere between 2 to 4 minutes if it's heavy and I'm trying to go power, about 4 or 5 minutes. If it's not that heavy and I'm going moderate, 90 seconds to 2.5 minutes. It's not meant to be perfect. It's just something that I'm giving myself a little bit of break. Then I'll start adding that weight up, get to the next reps. So as I'm getting my weight to load, something to consider. Once I start adding a little bit more weight, right now I'm adding 45 to each side. So we're going from 225 to 315. As I start adding more weight, I tend to make a decision. Being that I'm not a bodybuilder and that is not my goal. My goal is not to get as massive as possible. I have to decide if I'm going for more strength or power or just general stability and development. Because I prefer movement over size, and I'll allow the size just to be a byproduct of whatever I'm training for, whatever I think I may come in contact with. or some to be able to oppose something, I will tend to shift more towards the power side or strength and stability. So for this set, as we've gone up a little bit in weight, I will give a little bit more speed on my upward movement and keep the reps more moderate. That means a little moderate on the down, a little bit quicker on my up. Bar rolled a little bit, but we're gonna roll with the punches. So now I've done that, I'll probably end up either switching the bar up so it doesn't roll too much, get a little bit better grip, and then potentially going up weight. So we'll get right back to it. So now I'm taking this bar out. Certain bars have certain purposes. This one being that it doesn't roll, or it rolls the wrong way. It shifts up that ability to hold that grip properly. Whereas when we go here, it's be a little bit better for the movements. So now I'm gonna just reload that weight back up. If you're not used to loading weight, always be careful. Once you get to a certain weight, you see that bar will start to tip because it's not balanced. So as you're putting the weight on, you wanna make sure you kind of hold that weight until you get more towards the center of the bar, especially once you go past the plate. So on one side. Another fun fact, I am obsessive about grip strength. Something that I do train very specifically, but I make it a point in between sets to pick the plates up single hand. It's not required, but it's just something that I like to do, as I see that anything I can do to train my grip is a benefit. It's added value, so I'm always gonna do that. All right. All right, so now we got our weight back on. Now we'll get a little bit of a better set, hopefully, as long as the bar is compliant. And if the bar is not compliant, then, you know, we gotta make it. So again, since we went up a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and get a little bit speedier on the uplift. And focus there, just lower and try to get up a little bit of power. Most power movements whenever you're speeding, typically 3 to 5 unless we're jumping with no weight, but once there's resistance, once there's resistance, that's the 3 to 5. If there's no weight, whether you're doing sprints, jumps, it's really just the time that you're putting behind the movement. So if you're sprinting for max speed, obviously you're not going past that 5 to 10 seconds, and vice versa with this. We're not trying to go a high duration. We're not trying to get 8 to 12 reps. We can in a more controlled fashion, but here, just focusing on the speed of movement. So as I lower it down, how quickly can I bring it back up? How well am I transferring my power from the floor, grabbing through my feet, hamstrings, glutes, bringing that back up. So that way, again, in more athletic or functional fashion, we're able to use our strength. So if I need to grab something or someone, can do that fairly easily. Now we went through, got our sets of RDLs, keep it moving. Remember, this one's a little bit quicker. We're on a short, we're a little bit more of a time crunch. We're gonna move right into some presses on the ball. Today's workout, I'm not trying to go super heavy, so I'm gonna do something that I can easily kind of work through 10 to 15 rep range, keep it comfortable. I do like to use the stability ball. Some people find it controversial. I could not care less. I find it's a lot easier on your shoulders, but it also demands a little bit more full body. Getting that stability is really good for awareness of position throughout your shoulders or proprioception, but it also makes sure that you have to get your core enabled. You're gonna get a little bit of hamstring glute activation, but that added balance is something that I do want just for general output, but also being able to create strength when I don't have the most balance. So keep this moderately light. I'll do set 1 with 105. And yeah, we'll just get ourselves set up. Again, use a weight that you can do comfortably, not that other people can. A little weird, gotta make sure I don't hit that mic. Okay. Again, always do something on that first set that I can do reasonably comfortably, not trying to go above and beyond, not trying to tire myself out to work completely out of breath. Just something to get a little bit of resistance, but to be consistent, because when you're trying to get a workout in a little bit faster time, you want to keep things moving. So going for max power, which means the fastest I can go or the heaviest, really wouldn't be to an advantage if I just want to get full body, make sure everything's getting something, and I'm just being efficient with my time. All right, for second set, again, we're just gonna keep it moderate. Nothing too crazy right now. So we'll go to 115. Again, we want something that we can do relatively comfortably without having to come out of pocket, not breathe too hard. So that way we can get this full body in quicker than usual. All right. Again, focusing on not hitting that mic. All right. And just looking for some controlled reps. Make sure that everything's kind of smooth. And not trying to get too crazy. Something I also do personally, I'm not saying everybody needs to do this, is I watch my heart rate. So after I finish sets, before I start, I'm always kind of looking to see where I'm at. This is an easy gauge for how my breathing is going throughout the set, and also when I finish, how well I'm recovering when I'm able to control my nervous system. So during the reps, outside of when I'm talking, I try to keep the majority of my breathing through my nose. Especially when I finish, when you feel like your heart wants to elevate, we understand that if we can just get that back to nasal breathing, it's a lot easier to calm ourselves down. All right, so now we're gonna do our last set. Back again with these 115s. Try to get a little bit more out of this set. And when I say more, it doesn't always, or it's not always indicative of reps. Sometimes it's just quality of movement. Quality of movement could be speed, how smooth it feels, the rebound. I'm just making sure to keep in my mind that this will be a better set than the last ones. Okay. Felt pretty smooth. Good 11. Now we'll get ready to go ahead and move over and touch back to legs a bit before we get to our finisher. All right, so now that we finished up with the presses, coming back to get our leg work so we can get closing it out. I'm gonna use this super squat machine here because, like I said, when I was in RDLs, as I move through my movements, I typically like to transition into a more power phase. Short on time, so we're not trying to go maximum output, but we do want some speed of movement. And this machine allows me to load weight relatively quickly while still being efficient. What I mean by that is I can load weight, start at something a little bit more advanced. My body's already primed, meaning my nervous system is already ready. Been doing other weights, lifting other things, so my nervous system is gonna be totally good with this. I wouldn't recommend this for everybody because everybody's not the same. But the order of what I'm doing in the sequence, it just makes sense, and it also feels really good. So I'm gonna keep adding some weight here for set 1. So this should be good for set 1 on that side. And we got to balance that out. And this should be good for set 1. Now that we got both sides balanced. With this, like I said, I'm not maxing out here. This isn't something that's going to push me to my limits. It's not a top set. It's something that I'm going to control, but give a little bit more force on the upside of that. So that means down controlled, and then I'm going to kind of power through on the top side. Normally I'd do something like this and I'd stagger and I'd go more unilateral or a kickstand, but short on time, so we're just gonna go bilateral, both legs same time. Oops. One more. You'll notice I'm doing a slight pause and I'm not trying to go butt to the ground. It's not meant for that. We go power. I'm trying to get to a range that I could potentially run or jump from. Running is going to be a much lower range, whereas jumping, you may get down to here. So I'm just working in that range. Other movements, whether that be a split squat or like a Bulgarian lunges, I tend to go a little bit further range of motion. So when I'm going unilateral with one leg, further range of motion. When I go bilateral, I'm typically speed of movement, stability, but I'm really just trying to be fluid. So I just load a little bit more weight and focus on the movement and the output of it. Not range of motion, but we're not bodybuilders. Second set, we're gonna add a little bit more weight. All right, so grabbing these weights to get the second set of this. Again, machines, at least to me, a little bit easier than free weights because there's less instability. So when you do train with instability, When you come to a machine, it'll feel a lot easier because there's less expended energy in controlling your platform. Once it's centered, your output is a lot more targeted, which means you should theoretically be able to move weight a little bit easier and potentially more weight. But as always, you got to train to your experience, your current comfort of abilities. Doesn't mean you can't get uncomfortable. There's always going to be a greater potential for you, but it is important that you understand where your communication is at in that moment. So if you haven't gone as high, or if you haven't developed good communication for support for your core, your lower back, your knees, your ankles, your shoulders, all that good stuff, then it's important that you start there. Get your body prepared to load more weight so that you can do things in a comfortable fashion. Again, we're not trying to get excessive range of motion. We're just trying to get controlled lower and speed of the up. Two more. One more. We'll do one more set, and for good measure, probably top it out. So I'm gonna get one more plate. All right, so getting the last plate so we can get a solid 9. This is kind of where it stops because there's no more room. All right. Again, the goal isn't to do a whole bunch of reps or to fully fatigue or exhaust ourselves. Not when you have a short amount of time. It's just efficiency of movement. Again, always looking at the heart rate, knowing that I'm not pushing to a rate of exertion to where I'm going to failure, or I'm trying to walk out the gym where I can't walk. I think that's real popular nowadays. But if you can't walk, can't protect yourself. I know people don't really think about that, but it's kind of weird. So most of the times when I leave out, I still have a decent amount in the tank. And I found that doing that doesn't mean I'm not pushing myself, because I am progressively building that up. But my baseline output is typically higher than most because of that time and that effort that I've put in to build it that way. So take it for what you want, but I've been able to see some decent results from making sure that I can train every day. It's not for everybody, but for me, it not only works, but it's also good for keeping mental clarity. Let me get my set counter on. Yes. Two more. One more. Okay. All right, now that I finished that, I'm gonna take these weights off. I'm gonna transition into my last sequence, which is my pull-ups. For those who don't know, I do 100 pull-ups every day, regardless of what's going on, regardless if I do a pull workout, leg workout, doesn't matter. Always do 100 pull-ups. So today we're just gonna finish off with those. Since it's limited time and I'm not doing the same volume I would normally do, I'm doing typically a little bit more than 3 sets, but today we're doing that. I'm gonna do these weighted because I'm not going heavy exertion. My weight will just be a plate. So after I take these off, I'll take one of these with me and I'll get to my 100 pull-ups. So like magic, we got the belt on, or like YouTube, whatever you want to call it. Got our weight up over here. So like I said, no matter what workout, no matter what I've done, I don't care if I'm had a long day, which today has been, I'm still gonna do my 100 pull-ups. Since we did a little bit lesser volume on the previous work, I'll be doing these with a plate. This is something I've done for years, not necessarily played every day. A lot of days I do weighted, sometimes I mix it, but 100 pull-ups a day is just something that I always do. I remember when I first said I was gonna do it and started some years ago, I was told that it's not good. Found that to be wrong. Most people just won't do it. If you start doing it, it gets easier. So I'll do that in however many sets it takes. I'll kind of keep rolling. Usually I'll try to do something in between, whether that be lunges or push-ups. Doesn't really matter. I just do that because my mind just don't like to stand there. So I end up doing random things sometimes. But I have found that in me doing that, not only does it improve or increase my energy output, but I feel like to get more energy, you have to create it. So if you find yourself getting tired, figure out when you're not picking up. That can be throughout your day, getting sets of push-ups or squats in, or in your workout. Where this is my rest from the pull-ups, I may come down and do some fist push-ups. Not because I need to, but I don't really like to stop moving too much. So I'll find a happy medium of doing something that isn't a high output, but allows me to keep getting some work in. And when it comes to training, intensity does matter, but there is a skill component to strength. And that's, to not get scientific, more of a neurological side of things, but in that skill component, one of the great adaptations would be frequency. The more often you can do it, the faster you'll get better at it. All right, so we're gonna get to our next set. Had to pull a shirt down, not for social media, but even though it's nighttime, this gym does not have the AC on. So, might be about 1,000 degrees in here right now. It's cool, but we cooking. I ain't talking about the workout. It's a tad bit warm. Then we gotta finish up this 100. Okay. And again, because I don't like doing nothing, I'll go back to another set of push-ups in between. Again, these aren't really things that I'm counting at this point. Only thing that matters is that I get those 100 pull-ups. The push-ups are solely to make sure I don't just have to sit and wait in between sets. So after I feel like I've gotten a good feel, not so much a number, then I go into my actual rest. For this, I'll give myself a minute or two and hop back on the bar. So get ready for next set. Sometimes, and there's no rhyme to it, it's logic but no rhyme, but there is a reason. I like to switch up the grips. So what that means is I'll go from inside to outside. Typically I just like to vary it. I don't like to do the same thing over and over. That's gonna be good just to make sure that you're being dynamic, but also for my mind. And again, because I don't care to sit and do nothing, we'll go back to the push-ups. No count, just reps. Okay. So now I shall rest. Give myself, like we said, a minute or two. And in that minute or two, I'll just breathe and try to relax and then get back to it. All right, so now we're back at the end of the sets. This will be my last set for pull-ups to finish the 100 and the workout. With this, again, like I said, if you're gonna start doing 100 pull-ups, great. Probably would start without weight and breaking it up. If you're a little bit more experienced and you have time, strength, you're a little bit more advanced, it is a good thing sometimes to do it at the end of your workout or beginning, however you see fit, to give yourself a little bit of a raise in intensity. Here we're not trying to go 100%, so I'm not giving maximum intensity, but I am doing something to give myself a little bit of a bump towards the end of my workout. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed.